Let me pose to you a question. What happens when you have a kid, second one's on the way, and for the millionth and first time, you just cannot squeeze the second child's seat into your Focus ST? You buy one of these, a 2020 Ford Edge ST.
Or you could buy an Acura RDX A-Spec. Both of these are mid-size crossovers. You might not think the Acura is, but the third generation model is within a couple of inches of the Edge. So this is a legitimate comparison.
So let's say we find out which one is the better replacement for the family hot hatch.
Sounds reasonable. What shall we drive first? I know, let's drive the blue one.
Wow.
The Acura RDX was brand new for 2019. That is the third generation model. 272 horsepower. So the Acura has some snap to it. Is it a pure performance vehicle? No. It's more of a bit of a sports car in a crossover body. 0 to 100 is about 6.5 seconds, 6.6, something like that. It's a little slower than the Edge ST, but dynamically, this handles better than the Edge. It's tighter. 10-speed automatic instead of the 6-speed from the previous generation. It's a lot of gears. You put it in Sport or Sport Plus mode, the first 8 gears are knocked off pretty cleanly. Both vehicles run on premium fuel, but unlike the Edge ST, this works fine at 91 octane. The interior dash setup is much cleaner, much brighter, much newer, and for the most part, friendlier than in the ST. My biggest beef is the remote touch interface. It requires a very light finger touch, and it distracts you from driving. You really sort of have to look down and pay attention to see what you're doing. The A-Spec trim is purely an appearance package. There's no performance upgrade. All RDXs come with a 2-liter turbo 4. They all make 272 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. But this is the sharpest looking trim level in the RDX line. The RDX is Acura doing what Acura should have been doing all along, building a sporty vehicle that gives you a sense of performance, gives you a sense of style, gives you a bit of everything. Ultimately, for me, and say my family situation, my wife and I are empty nesters, so we don't need the room, the cargo capacity, or the towing capability that the Edge ST provides. In my situation, the RDX would suit us just fine.
Now, the first thing you should know about the Edge is that it's not exactly a new crossover. The current generation, as you see it, came out in 2015, and the Edge ST was new last year for 2019. It's got a 2.7-liter V6 under the hood. It's EcoBoost, so it does have a couple of turbochargers on there. Pumps out about 335 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque, asterisk, on 93 octane. So if you pump in 87, 89, or 91, then you make a bit less power. That being said, it is hooked up to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and by and large, it's a pretty decent combo. It's not fast, but it's quick. The Edge ST is actually pretty smooth. You don't feel the transmission shift, and power delivery is actually pretty linear. That's the thing about V6s. They give you easy power, and that's probably one of the biggest differences between the Edge ST and the RDX A-Spec. That being said, if you want any semblance of performance, you kind of have to drive this thing in sport mode. It actually wakes up the throttle response considerably. The problem with sport mode is that it makes the throttle tip in just a little bit too sensitive. So, like in stop and go traffic, or if you're going from stoplight to stoplight, you kind of feel like sort of like a bit of a jerking motion back and forth. It's not really the smoothest with sport mode activated. Where the Edge, I think, really excels over the RDX is cargo space. Not only do you have appreciably more cargo space, but you also have more rear seat legroom and headroom. So if you value practicality in addition to sportiness and driving dynamics, you'll be better served by the Edge ST. Now, pricing is a bit of a mixed bag. The ST is a few grand cheaper than the RDX, but in order to option it out to the same level of equipment as the RDX, you do have to tick on a few option boxes. Well, it's most of the active safety features. That's about a $7,000-ish option package that includes, you know, most importantly, adaptive cruise control plus a bunch of other little things here and there. As you see it, this particular Edge ST, it's pushing about $56,000 as tested, which is actually a considerable jump over the RDX. Now, granted, you do get a much bigger, much more practical two-row crossover, but what you get for the money, especially in terms of interior appointments, well, whether or not it's worth it, that's another discussion. It's not a bad interior per se. It's fairly well built. There's a lot of black in here. It just feels like a pit of darkness with a bit of carbon fiber sprinkled in because it's sporty. There is one more thing I want to talk about, and that's the way you shift gears in both of these. I don't know why it's so difficult for car manufacturers to give you a simple shift lever, but both the RDX and Edge ST have you shifting through the gears in a pretty annoying manner. It's more complicated than it has to be. If I had to pick which one was the lesser of the two evils, I would say it's the Edge's rotary knob, but that being said, they both suck.
These are two pretty good performance crossovers. The driving dynamics are really good in the RDX. It doesn't quite have the power of the Edge ST, but it's pretty close, 0 to 100.
The RDX does have a much prettier interior.
Much prettier exterior as well.
That's debatable.
That's what we're doing,
I guess.
The Edge is a better family vehicle. It has more interior room. It has greater cargo capacity. It will tow much more.
Well, there you have it. In this blue versus blue comparo, the Edge ST wins. For Driving.ca, I'm Nick Tregianis.
For Driving.ca, I'm Brian Harper.
And before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out Driving.ca for more news and reviews on blue crossovers.